Most people who try budgeting quit within a month, not because budgeting doesn't work. Millions of people genuinely do use one successfully every single month for years. It's because most people are taught a version of budgeting that doesn't match how money actually behaves in real life. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact method that holds up past week 3. Zero-based budgeting, the step-by-step process to build one for your actual numbers, and the mistakes that quietly collapse most attempts before they ever get a fair shot. Part 1. The reactive trap. Most people fall into the most common version of budgeting people try. Looks like this. Guess rough amounts for a handful of categories, track spending throughout the month, and then look back at the end to see how close the guess was. This approach is reactive by design. It tells you what already happened after it's too late to change it. By the time you notice you've overspent on dining out, the money is already gone. There's no decision point built into the process. There's only a report card delivered after the test is over. This is also why most people experience budgeting as restrictive and demoralizing rather than useful. A reactive budget mostly generates guilt about spending that already happened, with no mechanism for actually preventing it next time, which is exactly the kind of experience people abandon within a few weeks. Part 2. What zero-based budgeting actually means. Zero-based budgeting flips the entire approach from reactive to proactive. The core rule, every single dollar of income gets assigned a specific job before the month begins. Not guessed at, not tracked after the fact, assigned in advance. The zero in zero-based budgeting refers to this equation. Your income minus every category you've assigned money to, bills, debt payments, savings, groceries, entertainment, everything should equal zero. Critically, this doesn't mean you spend every dollar. It means every dollar has a destination decided in advance. Even if that destination is savings or investing, money that isn't deliberately assigned anywhere is exactly the money that quietly disappears. The same mental accounting blind spot that makes raises and windfalls vanish without a trace. This matters because it closes the single biggest gap in reactive budgeting. There's no more, "I don't know where it went," because every dollar already has an answer to that question, decided before you ever had the chance to spend it without thinking. Part 3. The exact step-by-step process. Step 1. Calculate your true monthly take-home income. Use your actual deposited amount after taxes and deductions, not your gross salary. If your income varies month to month, use a conservative average based on your lowest few months from the past year, not your best month. Step 2. List your fixed obligations first. Rent or mortgage, minimum debt payments, insurance, and any other bill that's the same amount every month, non-negotiable in the short term. Step 3. Assign your savings and debt payoff goals next before discretionary spending, not after. This is the pay yourself first principle in practice. Treat your emergency fund contribution or extra debt payment as a bill that gets paid, not as whatever happens to be left over at the end. Step 4. Assign your variable, flexible categories in groceries, gas, personal spending, based on your actual historical spending, not a guess. Pull your last 2 to 3 months of bank or card statements and use the real average, not what you wish the number was. Budgets built on optimistic guesses are the ones that collapse by week 2. Step 5. Assign every remaining dollar somewhere specific. If there's money left after steps 2 through 4, don't let it sit unassigned. Direct it toward a specific goal. Extra debt payoff, additional investing, or a planned purchase. Unassigned money is exactly the money that quietly evaporates into small, unremembered purchases. Step 6. Track throughout the month and adjust categories as you go, without starting over. If you overspend in one category, the zero-based method gives you an immediate, built-in answer. Move money from a different category to cover it, rather than treating the whole budget as broken and abandoning it. Part 4. A quick sanity check benchmark. Once your categories are built, it's worth checking the overall shape against a commonly used reference point, the 50-30-20 framework, which suggests roughly 50% of take-home income toward needs, 30% toward wants, and 20% toward savings and debt payoff beyond the minimums. This isn't a rule to force your numbers into. It's a sanity check. If your fixed needs are eating up 70% or more of your income, that's useful information about your overall financial pressure, even if the immediate fix isn't simple. In high cost of living areas especially, needs regularly exceed 50%, and that's worth knowing clearly rather than feeling vaguely guilty about it without understanding why. Worked example, Maya brings home $4,000 a month. Rent, insurance, and minimum debt payments total $2,000, exactly 50%. She assigns $400 to savings and debt payoff beyond minimums, 10% below the 20% benchmark, which tells her clearly that her current flexible spending category at $1,600 has room to be tightened if she wants to close that gap, rather than guessing vaguely that she should probably save more. Part 5. 5 mistakes. That's that collapse a budget. Mistake 1. Budgeting based on guesses instead of actual historical spending. As covered in Part 3, this is the single most common reason a first-month budget falls apart almost immediately. The numbers were never realistic to begin with. Mistake 2, forgetting irregular, non-monthly expenses. Annual subscriptions, car maintenance, holiday gifts, and similar costs don't show up every month, so they get left out entirely, and then arrive as a surprise that blows up the budget when they do hit. The fix is a sinking fund, dividing an annual cost by 12 and setting that smaller amount aside every month, so the expense is already covered when it arrives. Mistake 3, treating the budget as a punishment rather than a plan. A zero-based budget that allocates $0 to anything enjoyable tends to get abandoned, the same way an overly restrictive diet does. Building in a deliberate, planned amount for discretionary spending isn't a failure of the system. It's what makes the system survivable. Mistake 4, abandoning the entire budget after one difficult month. A single category running over isn't a sign the system failed. It's exactly the situation zero-based budgeting is built to handle, by moving money between categories rather than scrapping the plan. Mistake 5, not revisiting the budget as circumstances change. A budget built for last year's rent, last year's income, or last year's debt load stops reflecting reality if it's never updated, worth a quick review every few months, not just once at the start. Conclusion and CTA. The budgets that survive aren't the ones built with the most willpower. They're the ones built proactively, where every dollar already has a job before the month starts, instead of reactively, where the only feedback arrives after the money is already gone. So here's the one action. This week, pull your last 2 months of bank statements and build out steps 1 through 4 with your real numbers, not estimates. That alone, real numbers instead of guesses, is usually the single biggest difference between a budget that survives and one that doesn't. If this finally explained why your past attempts didn't stick, subscribe. Next video walks through exactly how to set up a sinking fund for irregular expenses, step by step.